Before the crown prince took the throne, he promised me the position of empress, but later, he made me noble consort. He held his true love in his arms. I remember the 12th year of Chunhe. Shijingqiu held the ceremony to make me the crown prince's consort. He welcomed me into his household that same year. My father was fighting on the frontier. My father fought to hold the border. He held 13 cities. The emperor was greatly pleased. 3 years later, my father overcame objections and backed Shijingqiu. When he ascended, everyone knew the empress's place was rightfully mine. And it should have been mine, but Shijingqiu, he kept postponing it, leaving the empress with her position hanging. The edict to enthrone her, the night before, Shijingqiu arrived. He came to Jiaohua Palace to discuss it with me. He urged me to give up the title of empress. Su, the Su family's legitimate daughter. Her father and brothers stood by Shijingqiu, risking their lives. They were all swallowed by the plots that paved his way to the throne. But the unfortunate in this world aren't limited to just Su Yingying. My father is already in his 50s. He has endured the bitter cold at the frontier. My father's hair turned white early. The scars on his body lie in overlapping layers. They snake like winding rivers. His hidden ailments are even more numerous, too many to count. As for my elder brother, he was once the most spirited in the capital. Youth, gave his all in service and died for him. He has no right to act like this, to humiliate me or the Fu family. I smashed the inkstone. I had a huge fight with Shijingqiu. He lowered his eyes slightly. He would allow no interruption. He said, Su Yingying is now a mere orphan. A mere orphan. He must treat her well, to comfort her father's and brother's spirits. He said, he spoke so grandly, completely forgetting, when he was the unfavored crown prince, he once fawned over me. He even forgot he had once made the vows with me. I laughed bitterly. If he acts like this, what will become of our Fu family's honor? Where will it end up? I grabbed his robe. I shouted, if the Su ancestors cry for justice, are you saying my Fu family can be trampled? Shijingqiu fell silent at my question, yet he was extremely stubborn, forceful in insisting on making Su Yingying empress. He merely assumed he's counting on my father. Loyal to the throne and country, my father would never rise against him. He assumed the Fu family had no heirs. Unable to oppose me, I expelled him from Jiaohua Palace. He said through the window he'd make amends to me. As if I cared, he sent men to bring an East Sea Jiaoju, the pearl my brother spent a fortune to get. He had it sent to give to me. Gifts from the West Sea. My father once hunted all the way to the border for me. The border Wolf King's fang he bestowed, glittering, golden rarities. My rooms were piled high, with pearls and jewels jingling and clanking. It was as if they'd brought in the entire imperial treasury. He enjoyed extraordinary favor in the inner palace. The whole palace was envious. But what did that matter? Once the edict named the empress, all would know. The general's so-called bewitching daughter was demoted from wife to concubine. 100 years later, together with him, was laid to rest in the same coffin. She will be Empress Su Yingying. She definitely won't be me, who stood by him since girlhood. I am the discarded wife by his side. My Fu family has become a complete laughingstock. On the day Su Yingying was crowned, the sunset burned crimson like blood, as if trying to set the whole sky alight. I pretended to be sick and didn't go out. Shijingqiu said my father would accompany me. It was unfair, but the Fu family had only my father and me left. Only my father and me. If your brother were here, he definitely wouldn't have let you suffer. To be humiliated like that, this was my father, apologizing to me for only the second time. When I was young, I lost my mother, father, and brother, and were often away at war. Even when I was wronged, there was no one to turn to. What I wanted most then was to see the two figures I longed for day and night. I still remember their silhouettes. When I was 10, I waited with joy for father and brother. We were going to celebrate the new year together. But the border reported an emergency. The court ordered my father and brother to leave at once. There was no time to delay. The hopes I'd held for years vanished in an instant. Threw a tantrum, smashed the newly bought lantern, climbed a tree, refused to come down. Why today of all days? Today is already New Year's Eve. Once night fell and the lanterns were lit, we could go together to welcome the new year. That was the first time my father, he apologized to me. The night felt unbearably heavy. My brother's eyes shone as he stood beneath the tree. He had his arms outstretched, waiting for me to leap down. My father was right. If my brother were here, Shijingqiu wouldn't dare treat me like this. My brother had a fiery temper. He was different from my father. He only cared that I was happy and wouldn't be bound by courtly rules. He wouldn't care about court etiquette. He'd seize his long saber and ask Shijingqiu, how dare you treat my uncle? How dare you treat uncle like this? But he'd already been buried in the frozen wastes beyond the frontier. Even his body, they had been trampled into mud. They were only brought back. A single iron token, the one I had carved myself. The token I'd hoped would mean his safe return. In the end, it became his only memento. The thought made my chest ache. I hurriedly grabbed Chen Chen's hand. I was desperate for an answer. Would my brother, alone at the frontier, blame me for not going to see him? Chen Chen paused mid-com and forced a smile. Your Highness, young general, he will never blame you, will he? Would my brother really not blame me? Then why hasn't he come to see me even once? In the candlelight, the jewels in the dressing chest glittered. They reflected Chen Chan's frightened face. I hesitated and turned to look at her. I leaned over, using my fingertip. I wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. But the more I wiped, the more there were. They darkened and pooled into small sticky red beads, clung to the ends of her hair. I looked at her in confusion. Chen Chen, why can't you wipe the tears off your face? Chen Chen sobbed harder, unable to stop. Your Highness, please, if you're hurting, just cry. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. I thought Chen Chen was rambling, so I reached out. I reached out with both arms to shake her little head, to pour the paste out, but all I heard was the clatter of metal hitting the floor. When I looked down, I realized I'd just been fiddling with it in my hand. The gold hairpin I hadn't noticed when it had been stained with blood. Blood was trickling down my pale forearm, snaking down from the wound. At that moment, I fully came to my senses. Then I came to my senses. I hadn't cried for years. I had already cried for my brother. The news of my brother's death reached the capital. On that day, I had already cried my eyes dry. The Fu family was reduced to my father and me. How could I ever allow myself to be mocked? Nor would I let anyone bully me. So Su Yingying's sister tore my kite. I then made a scene at her Golden Jade banquet. At the Golden Jade banquet, Xie Jingshu's face was thunderous. He was clearly furious. Someone stormed into my Jiahua palace and flung the tattered kite at my feet. It's just a plain kite. If you wanted 1,000, even 10,000, I'd give them to you. You threw Su Yuchu out of my bedchamber. As if that weren't enough, you had Yingying humiliated at the Jinyu banquet. He looked furious. Fu Shu, since when did you become so relentless? It's just a plain, ordinary kite. I was holding the kite and had barely taken a few steps. It got stuck. Up in the tree, I hitched up my skirt. I climbed up the tree and saw 2 women. Beneath the rockery, they were whispering close together. They called me a tigress when they met me. They told others to steer clear. Yet I've lived in Jiahua Palace for years. I rarely show my face, yet my jealous reputation has somehow spread far. It's reached the point where even a newly arrived consort falls silent at the mention of my name. I had no intention of arguing with them. I just wanted to wait for them to leave. But then I heard a derisive snort. Su Yingying's sister's willow brows shot up. She hugged a satin fan embroidered with peacocks. She pressed a hand to her mouth. Smirking, she said, "That Fu Shu is nothing. My sister's the emperor's favorite. The emperor's most beloved." Lady Liang stammered, "But noble consort Fu is favored. Constantly she still dares to bar the emperor from her door." Su Yuchu snorted. "What do you know? She's just a cornered cat lashing out. The emperor would gladly stay away. He even has a general for a father. When his father dies, he won't amount to anything." What a load of nonsense. He still wanted to keep talking. I, however, went to the tree under the moon. I stepped forward and slapped her hard. The beauties beside her were so frightened they dropped to their knees. They didn't dare make a sound. Su Yuchu was furious. She stamped her foot, her large almond eyes blazing with disbelief. "You dare strike me? You're nothing but a cast-off woman, my sister, but you're the reigning empress. How dare you lay a hand on me?" I shot him a cold, sidelong glance. He was so startled he stepped back a few paces. I raised an eyebrow. I rested a hand on his temple, then turned to her. A cold, golden hairpin traced her delicate cheek. It traced her cheek. Like a serpent, I leaned in toward her and hissed into her ear. "Tell me, would this sick cat dare slash your pretty face? Dare you? My sister is the empress, and you're nothing. A noble consort, basically a concubine." He hadn't finished speaking before I shoved him to the ground. I used the toe of my shoe, dug it into his face, and ground it. Su Yuchu screamed, clawing and shouting. The maidens beside him, who would help him? Those 2 maidens were already terrified. Su Yuchu began sobbing. She hurled abuse, her voice hoarse. She spat venomously. "You really think Xi Jingshu fancies you? You think he dotes on you? He loves only my sister. He indulges you only to help my sister. You're nothing but someone to pave the way. A pitiful pawn used as a target. That's it. What makes you so special?" Chunchan, a childless cast-off wife, hearing the sound, Chunchan rushed over and hurriedly covered her. She struggled, twisting her body. Her throat made muffled, indistinct noises. Chunchan was frantic. She flailed like an ant on a hot pan, pressing her small hands down tight. "Fool, that won't help," I pulled out. The thin bamboo splinter from the kite jabbed into Su Yuchu's calf. Delicate and weak, Su Yuchu fainted from fright. Spring Cicada hurried over. "Worried," she said, "Your Highness." I smiled brightly at him. It was nothing. "Please help me back to the palace." Before Xie Jingshu could accuse me, I barged into his bedchamber. In fact, Su Yuchu was stammering, clutching the bed curtains. Su Yingying was feeding him the medicine herself. Saw me. His usually composed face betrayed him. On his composed face, an awkward expression appeared. Before I could speak, Su Yuchu She cowered behind Su Yingying. Tear-streaked, she began to apologize. "Noble consort, I didn't know. It was your kite. I didn't mean to break it. My sister the Empress will pay you. Please don't hit me, okay?" Su Yingying watched, heartbroken. She patted her back lightly, but what I heard made me want to laugh out loud. And I actually did. Su Yuchu shook harder, repeatedly saying, I was wrong, don't hit me. Don't hit me," Su Yingying cried out anxiously. She looked to Xie Jingshu for help. I also looked to Xie Jingshu. After a moment, stepped forward and said in a low voice, "Uncle, please go back." I laughed even harder. I nodded. "So you think it's my fault too?" Xie Jingshu frowned. "That's not what I meant." Su Yuchu was right. Su Yingying is the apple of Xie Jingshu's eye. They judged me guilty without even looking. I waved my hand and smiled warmly. "Don't worry. I'm leaving now. It's just that I'm taking Su Yuchu with me." I stepped past Xie Jingshu. I yanked Su Yuchu up off the bed and dragged him along. If Xie Jingshu stages it outside the hall, it's to boost Su Yingying. I'll make the jealous label stick. Otherwise, I'd be handing them the advantage for nothing. Su Yuchu's initial panic and fear were completely gone. Her daytime arrogance continued unabated. Crying, "Sister, save me!" Su Yingying. She rushed over and grabbed my sleeve and pleaded in a plaintive voice. Uncle, sister, I know I stole your place as empress. I did you wrong, but my sister is still young. Please spare her. I didn't move. Let go. Su Yingying not only refused to let go, she sank down onto both knees. Tears brimmed in her eyes. Uncle, sister, I'm begging you. No wonder Shi Jingshu favors, so delicate and wan. Even I felt like the unreasonable one. I squeezed Su Yuchu's flesh tight. She cried out in pain. I'll say it again. Let go. Su Yingying shook her head in sorrow. She stared fixedly at Shi Jingshu. Shi Jingshu, will you help her? Using my blood and tears to win that woman's favor. The hall fell silent. Uncle, Jingshu called. I lowered my eyes. Is this how you repay me? Shi Jingshu flinched. I felt nothing. Move aside. Don't make me repeat myself. Again, Shi Jingshu tore Su Yingying's hand free. She collapsed against his chest, sobbing. I dragged Su Yuchu out of the hall. She was utterly humiliated, and I sat in Zhaohua Palace for a long time. When Shi Jingshu came into my chambers, I didn't even notice until he sat down at my side. Chunchan's face was clouded with worry. She looked like a tiny, fretful old lady. It made me laugh, Shi Jingshu. At my laugh, his eyes brightened. He took my hand as he once did. Uncle, I was wrong. I shouldn't have let you go. I only came to your chambers to hear you speak. He said he wanted to stay with me longer. What a lie. I pulled my hand away. Su Yuchu was right. I'm just upset he broke my kite. Shi Jingshu snapped. Uncle, I know. Look, he solemnly swore, I'm not like that. After I caused a scene at his beloved's Golden Jade banquet, he asked me angrily, is it really worth going that far for just a kite? I only asked Su Yingying if she felt at ease sitting on the throne she seized, stolen throne, and she burst into tears. What has she to weep for? She should be crying. Isn't it me? In these palace walls, Su Yingying, she has every luxury and glory I have. She even has the dignity I don't have. Some consorts in the harem fear me. They envy me, yet they don't resent Su Yingying. They'll only think she's a poor thing. She hides behind me. Basking in favor, she reaps every advantage. Yet he still acts like the victim. I'm only giving him one more push to take him to the next level. I'm just securing her reputation as rightful empress. Shi Jingshu, why would he be angry? I smiled. I smoothed Shi Jingshu's collar. Isn't this what you've been plotting all along? Isn't it? Didn't you want to use me as a human shield to protect Su Yingying? I volunteered. Why back out now, Shi Jingshu? It was as if I'd pressed his sorest spot. He glared at me, furious. I calmly smoothed my hair at my temples. I used words to wound her. You pity her. So what? It's just a couple of cutting remarks, and she can sit there securely. On the Empress's throne, there is also the wise Emperor himself backing her. What's there to be so dramatic about? Shi Jingshu? In astonished disbelief, he said, Are you really blaming me? I scoffed. Can I? I said slowly, Shi Jingshu, since when is that how things work? You strike me, toss me a sweet, and expect me to kneel and thank you with tears. You didn't completely cast me aside. You made me your noble consort. I've told you, Uncle Su Yingying. The entire Su household died as loyal martyrs. They died for my Su family. Only he and his sister remain. Yes, you said that, but I also said I'm not willing. Use my Uncle Fu, or my family as your stepping stones. Use them as stepping stones to your throne? Shi Jingshu fell silent. I sneered. I couldn't help speaking. How could I not, watching you toss them so easily? My father and brother fought all their lives, just to have you come and humiliate them. Your Majesty, when you were in Chanqing Palace, did you hear anything? The muffled sobs, remember my brother? Do you remember back when you asked me to marry you? What did you promise? Joined in heart forever, in life and in death? Shi Jingshu, I think you've forgotten. I am the emperor. Do not keep testing my limits again and again. You call this crossing the line, Shi Jingshu? You once relied on my father and brothers to fight, to die for you. The realm is at peace. New commanders have risen. He no longer needs my father. He doesn't need me. I only asked 2 questions. They said I'd crossed a line. So I ripped open the bodice. On my pale, shirt-white chest there was a dark, jagged scar. Remember this scar? Do you still think you can hold your head high in front of me and the Fu family? This scar not only almost cost me my life, but it also took me and Shi Jingshu's child. In the 2nd year of my marriage to Shi Jingshu, I became pregnant. I had just passed the 1st trimester. I hurriedly told Shi Jingshu that day. He held me happily and spun me around several times. He vowed to protect me, to protect our child. He secretly stationed guards around my courtyard. He was afraid something might happen. He sent people to protect me, but over there, his defenses were lacking. It gave them an opening. Just as the assassin was making his move, he ran into me, who was bringing pear soup. I lunged with all my strength in front of Shi Jingshu. My chest was pierced by a dagger. The bleeding wound burned. It really hurt. It was too painful. I went limp. On the floor, I whispered, Don't tell father, please. Father, brother, don't let them worry. I fainted before I could finish. Chunchan said that at the time my condition, it was extremely dangerous. Basins of blood, one after another. Basin after basin of blood were hauled out of the house. Bowl after bowl of medicine. They brought them in, or so I've heard. I was near death. Xie Jingshu secretly entered the palace. He begged the then consort Shu, who is now the Grand Dowager. The Grand Noble Consort got me a life-prolonging pill. Unfortunately, the child still couldn't be saved. I'm unlikely to get pregnant again. Even if I do get pregnant, I probably can't carry the baby to term. I'm lucky to be alive. I remember when I woke, Xie Jingshu's eyes were swollen from crying. He kept apologizing to me. He blamed himself for failing to protect me. I blinked and told him it was fine. Luckily, I hadn't yet had the chance to tell my father and my brother that I was pregnant. Otherwise, I'd only have upset them for no reason. When he heard he'd upset them, Xie Jingshu cried even harder, buried his face against my neck. His tears soaked my collar. He said, "Uncle, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." His tears were genuine. His affection was genuine. But at that moment, he had treated me poorly. That was true. He had truly fled, and Chunchan was still crying. I leaned over beside her. I quietly whispered, "I'm sorry I scared you." She then collapsed. Chunchan screamed. Chunchan called the maids to fetch the imperial physician, Xie Jingshu. Su Yingying also hurried over. Imperial physician Xu Mingshuan stepped out from behind the bed curtains, bowed, reported to Xie Jingshu. "Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Your Majesty. The noble consort is with child." How could this be Xie Jingshu? He stood speechless with shock. Yes, he and I haven't shared a bed since I became noble consort. It's already been 4 months. How could that be? And when I returned from death's door, Xu Mingshuan warned there was a slight chance I might be pregnant. Highly unlikely. Xu Mingshuan murmured, lowering his head. "The imperial consort is pregnant. She's already over 4 months. How is that possible? You'd never tell." Xie Jingshu's hand was clenched tight. He was clutching his jade ring. Xu Mingshuan replied, "Perhaps. She's been very troubled lately. She's lost her appetite, so the baby is small. Besides, with those elaborate court robes, it's not surprising it wouldn't show." Hearing that, Xie Jingshu dismissed everyone. Su Yinyan tried to stay behind. She was turned away, her face ashen. Xie Jingshu as well. Without realizing that everyone had left, Xie Jingshu leaned his head gently against me and whispered softly as if, "I did wrong, uncle. You hid it from me on purpose, didn't you, uncle? What am I supposed to do? He's the emperor. He just tossed aside his image like that. And even his dignity." He sobbed at my bedside, but it was already too late. Xie Jingshu and Chunchan waited at my bedside. They watched me with timid eyes, like it had fallen into the water, just scrambled out of the water. A drenched kitten, she looked so pitiful when she saw I was awake. She suddenly burst into sobs. Tears and snot streaked her face. "Mother! Mother, please don't leave me. Some people think I'm pregnant and don't even know it. They even think I'm dead." I patted her head once and whispered, "When you cry, be careful with this quilt of mine." More than 100 Jiangnan seamstresses embroidered it. It took a month to finish. Look, these Luan birds on it. They're stitched in gold thread. They're priceless. Don't cry. You'll ruin the bedding. Chunchan sniffled as she wiped her face. "Then I'll be by your highness's side for life." Hearing that, my eyes darkened. He mustn't. He'll stay with me for life. I can't leave the palace, but he will leave the palace. If I'm gone, he'll be tormented to death. I don't have long to live. I already knew Xie Jingshu was in my quarters. He'd planted a mole, so I put on an act and pretended. Because Xie Jingshu is anxious and possessive, I deliberately cut my arm with a gold hairpin. I drew Xie Jingshu here. I was afraid. If too much time passed, he'd forget the Fu family. It would make him forget the wrongs he'd done. Since I dragged Suyuchu out of the palace, that only confirmed the rumors that I'm jealous. Chunchan grew anxious every day, so I asked her, "Why not tell everyone I'm sick and beyond help? Wouldn't that make it more forgivable?" Chunchan fell silent at once. She was probably thinking about the danger from 2 years ago. I smiled at that scare. I tapped her head and said, "It's all right, just a scare." I told her it wasn't a real illness. But Chunchan was. She couldn't be happy and watched me anxiously. She kept calling the imperial doctors. Soon rumors began to spread outside that Xie Jingshu had broken my heart. They said I was so heartbroken I couldn't get out of bed. When Xu Mingshuan took my pulse, I listened to the gossip and laughed. The gold-embroidered handkerchief in my hand. I twirled it in a circle. I tossed it onto the vase. I raised an eyebrow. I asked Xu Mingshuan to give my father a message. Tell him that his daughter is fine and healthy. He's as strong as a young ox. So don't worry at home. Xu Mingshuan's eyes went misty, a haze over his eyes, lashes like black feathers. The pulse-taking hand pressed low, clasping my wrist. His grip left red marks on Chunchan. The others backed away. I leaned in and whispered, "Brother Yunxian, please help me." I watched Xu Mingshuan stand up, fuming. He wrote it down on the rice paper. The prescription. I already knew what he'd do. He agreed, but the prescription stunned me. "Since when does a tonic include musk?" I asked. "I've been having this sharp ache in my chest lately." I thought it was because I was upset. It wasn't anger after all. A debt collector had shown up. I quietly tore up the prescription. Mingxuan. He sighed as if he'd expected it. Mingxuan, please keep this between us. Especially my father fell silent. He picked up his brush for me. He rewrote the prescription. I knew he'd been at a loss with me my whole life. There was nothing he could do. This child had come at the wrong time. Or maybe he should never have come. But he came anyway, so I'll fight for him. I'll try to give him a good future. I touched my belly and murmured, "You'll forgive me, won't you?" The baby seemed to answer with a small kick. I couldn't laugh. I knew I was only fooling myself. Chunchen held a bowl of white fungus and lotus seed porridge. Chunchen fed it to my lips, fussing nonstop. "I'll take good care of her highness. She's as fragile as a flower. It breaks my heart." He leaned close to my belly. "Prince or princess, be a good child. Don't trouble her highness. Stay put. You've suffered so much, your highness."